This conference will now be recorded.
Hi friends, good morning. In this Business Intelligence Master Program, so in today's session we are going to see copy files based on file names from Blob to Blob dynamically. Yesterday we have seen that is exactly same like this. So based on the file name, we are copying the files into our target, right? So today same approach we are going to do it in a different way. So you will see the what is the different way. Okay. See, we will learn in today's session scenarios, dynamic solution, how I am going to provide this particular thing as a dynamic solution. Dynamic solution means I don't know how I am going to load these files, but dynamically as per client requirement, you can decide. Okay, example, we have CSV files, JSON files. Client asked you to load all JSON files to one folder, all CSV folders, all CSV files to the another folder. So how you can implement such type of requirement? Dynamically, we will tell you, okay, how you need to load those files into the respective folders. We need to use something like parameters. So we will see today pipeline parameters and dataset parameters. Next, how this particular thing you can achieve it. So we're going to talk about data flow diagram. Then estimations, prerequisite and required resources. You know how many linker services, all those things you need. We are going to estimate. Then I'm going to talk about prerequisite to understand today lab required resources. With respect to demo, I will show you how you can create storage account, upload file into storage account, create Azure Data Factory v2. And we are going to talk about create linked service for blob storage using integration runtime. We need to create the linked service for blob storage using integration runtime. Then we are going to create the multiple data sets. Okay, linked service, you know, basically to connect to the blob storage, we are going to create the linked service. When I'm creating linked service, I'm going to use the integration runtime. So create multiple data sets based on requirement. We need to create different data sets, pipeline, debug pipeline, you know, run pipeline, you know, monitor pipeline, you know, right? So what is the difference between debug and a running pipeline? Can somebody tell me, friend?
Without publishing the pipeline, we should run the activity. At the time, we will use a debug.
Any other person can you explain? Two differences mainly I have explained. One is debug you can execute without debug you can able to do without publishing the pipeline. Second thing is if you want to run a pipeline partially few activities, then that is also possible with the debug, but trigger it is not possible. Okay, fine. Let's talk about scenarios that different scenarios that we are going to cover. The dynamic copy activity. So you will see how you can copy files dynamically. That is the first thing you are going to learn. Then we are going to see copy files based on file names from input container to output container as a CSV format. Okay, so I want to copy files based on file names from input container to the output container. How you can do that, we are going to discuss. Then we are going to talk about copy selected file based on file name from input container to the output container as a source format. Example, you have a source side, you have CSV file. Okay, source side if you have a JSON file. I want to load these files as it is into my target. I want to load these particular files as it is into my target. In second scenario, I have CSV files and JSON files. I have two different types of files. I want to load it as a CSV files. In second scenario, third scenario, if I have a CSV file, I want to load it as a CSV file. If I have a JSON file, I want to load it as a JSON file. Okay, next. Copy two types of files, JSON and CSV, from input container to the output container as a CSV file. Okay, exactly like this. Okay, exactly same as a second scenario, but in second scenario, maybe source side, if I have only CSV files, I will load it as a CSV file. But here in fourth scenario, I have two types of files, JSON and CSV. But finally, end of the day, I am converting all these files into CSV files. Dynamic solution. How I will provide dynamic solution? You see, creating a hard-coded data sets and pipeline is not a bad thing in itself. So as of yesterday, what we were doing, we are hard coding the file names. Whenever we want to copy particular file, we are selecting. We are confirming that this is the file that I want to pick from the source and I want to load it into this particular data set. Okay. So that is not a bad thing if you have a 1 or 2 folders. That is not a bad thing. Hard coding things is not a bad thing if you have a very small data sets. Okay, we have only few folders. I just want to copy data from input to output folder, input folder to output folder. In that case, you no need to do that dynamic copy activity, all those things you no need to implement because that is not required. Okay, that is not required. The reason is for creating dynamic copy activity will take more time. So just to copy data from input container to the output container, why do you need to do dynamic copy activity? You don't need to do that. Okay. So you are going to hard code the file names and all those things. But in real time, you will have a 100 containers. You need to copy data from 100 different containers, 100 different input containers to the 100 different output containers. In that case, so what you will do? Example, I will ask all of you. You are attending the sessions right now. If I want to copy data from input container to the output container, how many copy activities you will use? Tell me. How many copy activities you will use if you want to copy data from input container to the output container? Okay, many people are answering one. Let's see.
One copy data.
Okay, fine. Let's imagine I have 100 input containers, input 1, input 2, input 3, 100 output containers, output 1, output 2, output 3. Now I want to load data from input 1 folder to the output 1, input 2 folder to the output 2. Then in this case, how many copy activities you will use? Very good. Okay, that is your answer because with this knowledge, you are giving the correct answer. 100 copy activities we will use. That is what your answer, right? But reality, we won't use 100 different copy activities. We will use a single copy activity. We will pass the folder names dynamically. First, we will pass input 1 container. Next, we will pass input 2 container. Next, we will pass input 3, input 4, input 5. Like that, we are going to pass it dynamically. Everybody is clear, friends? Okay, so that is what we wanted to do. When you have a single folder, just you can hard code it. Hard coding is not a bad thing. Okay, it's only when you start creating many similar hard coded resources. Example, instead of creating similar copy activities 100 similar hard coded resources, okay, instead of creating those things, if you create all those 100 different copy activities, what will happen? It is a tedious and time consuming task. It will take more time for you to create 100 different copy activities. First thing. Second thing is, if something goes wrong, if you want to modify, it will take again more time. It is basically a very time consuming task. Okay, not to mention the risk of manual errors goes drastically up when you feel like creating the same resource over and over and over again. What it means, if you're trying to create a same resource again and again, what happens is manual errors. Maybe we try to give the same name which we have given, like when you are creating a multiple copy activities, 100 different copy activities, we basically do a multiple mistakes. Okay, if you're trying to do more work, so more mistakes will come. If you do less work, less errors will come. That is the basic thing, right? So likewise, if you try to create 100 different copy activities, if you try to use 100 different copy activities, the manual errors will be more. To avoid these errors, what we need to do, we need to make it as a dynamic thing. Your solution should be dynamic enough that you save time on development and maintenance. Okay, we need to make a dynamic solution. We need to create a dynamic solution. The dynamic solution should save our time and development time and maintenance time. All these times we need to save it. How we can able to save? We need to provide a dynamic solution. Instead of using 100 different copy activities, we should use a single copy activity. Okay, but not so dynamic that it becomes difficult to understand. Let's say some people, what we do, people who are working in real time, we see, right? Some people, they create a full dynamic. Full dynamic means we don't know what is that function name, what is that what this function is receiving, what this function is written. We don't know anything. Everything they will make it as a dynamic. They will form complete query as a dynamic. So we will not be able to understand. You need to create a dynamic pipeline or dynamic copy activity, but it should not be so dynamic that nobody can able to understand. Okay, you need to create a dynamic copy activity, means people should be able to understand whatever you develop. Okay, that's how we need to develop. Okay, so as of now, theory, do not worry if you're not able to understand those things. Practicals, you will see now. We have a parameters. Parameters are basically, if you want to provide any dynamic values, example, I want to provide folder names dynamically. First, I want to provide input 1, next I want to provide input 2, next I want to provide input 3. Likewise, I want to provide one by one folder names. Then you need to create a parameters. Okay, you can use parameters to pass external values into pipelines. We know what is pipeline. We can pass it to the data set. We have data set parameters. We can pass these parameters values to the linked service and the data flows. Okay, we will learn all these things. It will take more time, but you will come to know all these things by end of our training. Okay, we will start learning one by one parameters. Okay, but pipeline parameters, when you are using, compulsory you are going to use a data set parameter. Okay, I will give you one trick. Remember this particular thing, it will be very, very helpful for you. Linked service parameter. If you want to pass any value to linked service, it is not possible for you to pass directly some value to the linked service. You need to pass value to the data set. Data set can supply that value to the linked service. First point. Second point, you cannot provide data directly. You cannot provide values to the data set parameter directly. You need to provide them to the pipeline. You need to provide them to the pipeline. Pipeline will provide those values to the data set. Okay. So it will be confusing at this point in time, but you will have a more clarity as you see the practicals. By parameterizing resources, you can reuse them with a different values each time. So that's what we are going to do. Same copy activity we are going to reuse. Again, we are going to use same copy activity with a different values, different container names. For example, instead of hard coding the container name in each data set, we can parameterize the container name value. Then we can pass the container name in as a parameter each time we use the data set. Okay, that is what I was mentioning. Data set, we can able to pass it dynamically. Now you see, from here, everything is a some pictures. So try to understand. So how you will create data set parameters? How you will create data set parameter? You remember, you have a data set. Click on this data set. Okay, when you click data set, you have a connection schema parameter. In this parameter, you need to click new to create the parameter. That is a step 1. Step 2. Once you click on this new, it will ask you to enter the name of your parameter. Source container. I'm just saying source container is my parameter. Source container is my parameter. Okay. So this is how you need to create the data set parameter. This is how you need to create the data set parameter. Everybody understood this? If you click on this data set, you will go to the parameters, click on new. So if you click on new, you'll have a source container. You'll have a source container. Okay. Next, data set parameter. You see, now you have created that parameter, right? Now that parameter I need to use in the same data set. Okay, in same data set. You come from there to here in connections. In connections, here you are going to select the container name. You will just click browse. You will click browse to select your container name, isn't it? So on that container name, you need to say add dynamic content. Add dynamic content. You need to click on this. Add dynamic content. You need to click. Okay. So why you need to click add dynamic content? Because I want to add the dynamic content. Now you see, When you click add dynamic content, when you click on this add dynamic content, it will take you to this add dynamic content page. If you come here parameters, it will show you source container parameter that you have created in our first slide for the pictures. Okay, so I have shown you the first picture where I have explained you how to create data set parameter. This is the parameter we have created. When you come to the connection, see in this tab parameters, we created the parameter. When you come back to the connections, in connections, we have a add dynamic content. If you click on add dynamic content, you will get this page. If you see in this page, you will see parameters. If you click on this parameter, it will come dynamic content automatically. It will give you. Okay, this is the dynamic content you will use here to pass the dataset parameters. Okay, to pass the container names dynamically. Now you see further. When you just save it, this @ dataset dot source container name will come here. Okay. Next. Now what you need to do, from dataset you need to go to the pipeline. In pipeline you are going to use a activity. Inside activity, when you select a dataset, source dataset, inside dataset. When you select a source dataset, it will ask you what is the value that you are trying to set for this value. If you want to hard code the value for this data set, you can hard code it. But basically, we can also pass this value from the pipeline parameter. But we will discuss pipeline parameter later. For now, let me hard code the data set parameter value and just hard coding the data set parameter value as input. Okay, so this is how you need to use this data set parameter. Let me repeat all these points once again because this is important. Okay, so let me repeat all these things once again as this is important. Okay, fine. Now you see we are at the data set parameters. Now just click on this. So first select this data set, go to parameters, click new. When you click new, it will ask you to enter the parameter. You need to enter the parameter name. So what is your parameter name? Are you able to see what is parameter name? What is the parameter name? Are you able to see? Tell me, friends, what is the parameter name?
Source container.
Everybody has to tell me because that is important. Source container is
Source
our
container.
Okay, very good. Source container is our parameter. Now you see, go to next slide. What I'm doing, that source container name, that parameter I need to use at this position because whatever value I'm setting to that parameter, that value I need to pass it here. Example, I have input container. That input container name I need to pass it to here actually. So, but I am passing dynamically. That's why once you create the parameter, come to connection. In this connection, you have a add dynamic content. When you click add dynamic content, that will take you to this particular page. In this, you will be able to see your parameter name. What is the parameter you are seeing here?
Source container.
Same name, right? Same name, right? Just select this name, automatically this dynamic content will come. You no need to write it anything. You just click on this, it will come. When you just save this, that value will be set here at the dataset dot source container. Meaning, whatever parameter you have created, that parameter you are using here. Now, are you passing any value to this parameter as of now? I did not pass any value. Let's imagine if I set a example, if I set Cloud Pandit as a container name. Cloud Pandit is my container name. If I set that particular value to my parameter source container name, then what will happen? That particular Cloud Pandit value will come and sit here. What is this? This is basically, if you browse it, you will see that particular folders. But instead of browsing and hard coding the container name, this container name I am passing dynamically. This is step one. Now I am done all the things with respect to the data set. From data set, I need to go to the pipeline. Please be in mute, somebody. Okay. From data set, go to pipeline. In pipeline, use your copy activity or whatever activity. In activity, you will use data sets. When you select data set, in this data set, you have opened one parameter. That parameter will show here. When you show that when you see that particular parameter, you need to set the value for that particular parameter. You need to set the value. What is the value I set here?
Input.
What is this input exactly means? Can you tell me? What is this input means? Input is a container. My container is the input. That's why I'm just passing input as a source container. This input will be where this input will go and replace. Will go and replace inside this data set wherever we this parameter. Okay. Fine. One day you will not come to know everything. Even if you spend more time, that's okay. So you know this hierarchy, right? You will create an account. You will create a container. You will upload the files or whatever. Metadata will store in backend. So CSV file format, all these things we discussed. Okay, CSV will look like this. It's a comma separated. This is a pipe separated. But CSV can be any format. It can be double pipe. It can be the double delimiter. It can be anything. Okay. Next, JSON file overview. So JSON file will look like this. Okay, key value, key value, key value. We discussed this as well. Okay. Next. Data flow diagram. Try to understand. This is what we are going to implement today. This is very important. Okay, just to give me a minute. So first you try to understand, friends. We are going to use something called get metadata activity. In this get metadata activity, we will create a data set to reference to a input container. Okay, so it will reference to the input container. Inside input container, you remember in Blob storage, I can create a one container. Inside that container, I can place all the files. Okay. Now I'll just reference to the input container. Inside input container, I can have a multiple files. I'll just pick all those files. Example, cp courses.csv, cost.json, emp.json, cp survey.csv. Different CSV and JSON files I have. Okay. Now, when you just create a data set and reference to particular container, inside container, whatever files you have, those all files it will give. Which activity will do this? Get metadata activity, it will give all these files. All these files are available inside what? Input container. To get all these files in get metadata activity, you need to say all the child items of input container. Whatever files you have inside this container, all those are come under a child items. All these file names I will pass it to the filter activity. You have next activity called filter activity. In this filter activity, I'll say activity get metadata. This activity output dot child items. Okay, this activity output dot child items. That particular values I will pass it to the filter activity. In this filter activity, I'll say that it starts with item dot name dot cpc. Starts with cp courses dot csv is started with cp or not. Okay, so item dot name means all these items one by one I will pass it. Now cp courses.csv. cp courses.csv is starting with cp or not? This file name cp courses.csv file is starting with cp or not? Friends, tell me. People are not answering. You did not understand what I'm saying. Filter. I want to filter out the files which are starting with CP word. Okay. Only those files I will pick. Those files are the CP courses.csv, CP survey.csv. These two files I will pass it to my for each activity. What for each activity will do? For each activity will receive items 2. How it will receive items? 2 items, because these are the 2 items it has. To pass these 2 items, you need to say this filter activity output. See, activity of filter activity dot output value. If you say value, these 2 files will go here for each. Inside for each, I'm going to use a copy activity. Okay, first I will pass first file that will be copied into the destination. Okay, next I will pass the second file. I'll just copy to the destination. So copy activity, we already learned enough things. So we are going to learn other activities in today's session. Okay, so this is clear. Is this clear?
This for each activity, I did not understand. Alaya.
Okay, see, for each activity, what it will do. So if you have it 10 items, first it will give first item. So let's say you have 10 files. If you are giving 10 files to the for each. What for each will give? First it will give first file. If you consume that, next you ask the second file. For each will give second item. Next for each will give third item. Next for each will give fourth item. Next for each will give fifth item, like that. Okay. So for each, whatever items it has received one by one, for each will give it to you. So copy activity is responsible to copy those files wherever it has to copy.
Okay, what's the difference? So we have to use both activities, right? For each activity and copy activity.
For each will give the file. That's all. If you have
one
two
by
files,
one file.
two files to the for each will give one file at a time. Now
Okay.
you take that file and give it to the copy activity. Copy activity is responsible to copy this single file to somewhere. Okay, whatever destination we have specified. Once copy activity tell to the for each I am already copied the file which you are given. So then for each will say, hey, I have another file, please take this and the copy wherever you want to copy. So it will copy.
So it will be like a synchronous copy, right? Or
see, one more thing you need to understand here, for each is responsible for giving the files one by one. Okay, do not limit your for each functionality to give, it is going to give the files one by one. It can also give the files, 50 files at a time it can give. Here you have only 2 files. If you ask for each to give these 2 files at a time, give me these 2 files at once. So it will give at once. Even for each has given these 2 files at once, copy activity is going to execute twice, because for each file, copy activity is going to execute. If for each has given 2 files at once, meaning 2 copy activities are going to execute at a time inside this particular for each activity. Okay. Clear, friends, clear.
The main reason is to copy more things, correct? For this,
What?
well, actually, the main reason for going this is to perform copy activity more times, correct?
Not more time with the different types of files. So see, the scenario here is we have prefix. We have used the prefix. By using prefix, we have done yesterday. Only if the file is starting with the sales, just bring those sales files and load it into our target. Okay, day before yesterday session, I think we have seen how you can use prefix, how you can use wildcard options to copy all the files, how you can use prefix to pick only the files which are matching with this particular name. Those things we have learned. Okay, please go through those things.
Copy activity will parallelly will be executed.
Yes. For each activity, if you are taking all these file names at once, then copy activity is going to execute parallelly multiple times. Okay, those things you will see, come to know. Okay, so try to understand. So this is again an input container. This time it is giving again these files. Okay, now you see these files. First I will pass first filter activity. What it will do? It will just to take the CP file. Okay, whatever files are starting with CP, those files I will take and so those are the CP courses.csv, CP survey.csv. I will give it to the foreach. Foreach will give these files one by one to the copy activity. Copy activity will copy those things. Another filter I will apply here. I'll just pass those 4 files and I will say I want ends with .json. So all the JSON files only I want to pick from source, and I want to pass these 2 files, the course.json, emp.json to the for each activity. Inside for each activity, see, for each activity has received how many files again? 2 files. Those 2 files I'll just copy one by one with the help of copy activity. Okay. See, different things you can able to do if you understand this particular flow. That's what I wanted to tell you. So once you learn this particular flow, you can do multiple scenarios. You can able to implement. You see, previously I just copied CP files. Now, along with the CP files, .json files also I'm copying in another flow. Okay, but for each all other things you will come to know slowly. Okay, clear, friends?
What if we only use copy activity instead of both activities?
Okay, so if you are going to use a copy activity, now to copy these 2 files, 2 different files. Okay, maybe these 2 different files, if you want to copy into a single file, what you need to do, you can use a single copy activity, no issue. Okay, but example, I have this kind of requirement. Okay, I have this kind of requirement, like CP post. I want to convert these CSV files into JSON. I want to convert these JSON files into CSV. Okay? I want to convert these things. In that case, it is not possible by using a single copy activity. If you want to convert these files, let's say, see, today, just for having an idea, I'm just introducing all these things. But tomorrow you will see these CSV files you can convert into JSON. These JSON files you can convert into CSV. Then, if you want to load these files into different folder, you can load. These files into different folder, you can able to load. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, Arun, tell me.
This copy activity is within for each activity, or these are 2 different activities?
Inside for each, I'm going to use copy activity.
No, this will so copy activity will happen within the for each activity. Yeah. Within
Yes.
it will, okay. Thanks.
Okay. Fine. So if you know any language, right? If you know any language, so we will write for I in 10. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like this. You will write. So you will get one by one value. So on that value, if you want to multiply that value with 10, you can multiply. Okay. So likewise, if you have a 4 files, if I have a 4 files, those all files I will get it inside for each. So now instead of printing, I will use a copy activity to copy this I value. That is nothing but I is nothing but a file. I'll just use that I to copy. Okay, likewise, this copy is there inside for each to copy those files. Okay. One issue that you will see is if you are trying to copy, if you are trying to convert these JSON files into CSV, if you are trying to convert these JSON files into CSV with a single copy activity, it is not possible. So that's why we need to separate these type of files, like all CSV files into another one flow, all JSON files into another flow, and we need to copy these things in a different copy activities. So if you want to convert the CSV to JSON, that is possible. If you want to convert the JSON to CSV, that is possible. Okay, I'll show you those things. You know, estimations. We need to create a one linked service for each storage. We need, depends on reference points, we need to create the data sets. Activities, I will use only one copy activity to copy data from blob to blob. Then one pipeline, I will use what type of IR we need to use to copy data from blob to blob. Azure integration runtime we need to use. Okay, Azure integration runtime we need to use to copy data from blob to blob. Remember, it's a ADF expression language. It's not a special. It's ADF expression language we have used. Okay, prerequisite, I need to have a storage account, Azure Data Factory, integration runtime and types. We discussed yesterday what are the different types of integration runtimes we have and types. What is linked service, what is data set, activity pipeline, all these things you know. So required resources are storage account, data factory V2. Okay, I need only these 2. Let me quickly go and create those two resources. Okay? So in lab, you will come to know all those things. All your doubts are normal because you did not know what these things will do. So once you learn these things, you'll have a more clarity. Okay, let me just create the storage account. So let's create this in our create a new resource group. I can say code funding BA master program. It is already there group. Just give one and location storage account name I can say cloud funded Blob CP24 something like this. Just click review plus create. You know this. Create it. Now come here. Let me just create Azure Data Factory quickly. Let's create a data factory. Click category data factory. Name the cloud funded. A git configuration. We will just configure it later. Click review plus create. Create. Okay. So storage account is created. Now you see data factory is creating. Click go to resource. This is a data factory. Click author and monitor. Okay, so you know all these things. Just click on manage tab. Let's create linked service to Blob storage. So I'm going to use a single. Yeah, let's use a single Blob storage. Okay, so Blob storage continue. So basically ls linked service for Azure Blob storage. So you can say Blob one. So we are going to use a one Blob. So you just leave till here. So you know all these things how to create linked service till here. So which storage we have created? We have created CB24. Okay, just create CB24 test connection. Connection is fine. You just create it. Okay. Now come to author tab. So we have created the linked service. Now we need to create the pipeline. Okay. So whatever we have done as of now, these are not the new things for you. Okay. As of now, whatever we have done, those are the old things that we have learned. From now, whatever I'm going to do, those are the new things. Okay. Before I just create pipeline and all those things, let's go inside this container. Okay, let's click a container. This is what input container. So this is what I meant. So this is the input container I'm creating. Inside this input container, I may have a different types of files. Let's see what are the different types of files I will upload here. So I may upload CSV files. Let's say first one, first two CSV files. Let me upload. Along with that, I also will upload some JSON files. Okay. So because even if I spend more time on theory, it will not be useful. That's why I just close those slides quickly. Now you see we have CP JSON 2, CP JSON 3. I have these two files. Just select those two files also. Upload. I have two CSV files, two JSON files. Okay. Our first requirement is I want to load these JSON files into a different container, CSV files into a different container. Example, you can just create a CSV data container. So those CSV files I want to upload into CSV data container. Okay, JSON data files I want to upload into JSON files I want to upload into JSON data container. Okay, this is what we wanted to do first time. This is what I wanted to do. First lab. Let's try to do this particular lab. Okay. Okay. So you have uploaded CSV and JSON files. We have CSV data, JSON data folders. Okay. You have data factory. Till here, you know. Let me just create a pipeline directly. Click here. Pipeline. The pipeline name I'm not changing. See, first thing that I'm going to do is I will use a get metadata activity. You have something like get metadata activity. Bring this. Let's close all these things. So this is a get metadata activity. What is this get metadata activity? Get metadata activity. This activity is used to get the metadata. Metadata means what? We discussed previously. Somebody answered as well.
Data
What is
about file information.
Data about data.
Data about data? Very good. So what is data about data? Example. So I have actually data in my files, but now metadata means I want to get the file name. File name is a metadata. Okay, what is the type of file? That is a metadata. Okay, so when this particular file is modified, okay, last modified date, that is also metadata. How to get all that metadata? By using a get metadata activity, I can do that. I can get it. But now click on data set, click new data set. Okay, let's say blob storage. In blob storage, I have all my files. I want to get all those files. What type of files we have? Basically, we have different types of files. So just to select something, we need to select something. Just select anything is fine. Just select CSV. Click continue. This I can call it as a data set for get metadata. Linked service is this. First one is header, browse it, and select input folder. Okay. So what is this? Tell me. Please tell me quickly, friends. What is this?
Container.
Everybody, please tell me what is this?
Container.
It's a container. Container we can
Okay.
select the
What
all
is
files.
Okay, this is a container. Everybody agree, right? If I remove this, do we select any container or not? We have not selected any. We have not selected anything. You don't have. You have not selected. But there is a noise background on container directory file. This container name, instead of hard coding, see, you're just browsing and selecting means what? What you are doing basically? You're just browsing and selecting this means basically you are hard coding this. I don't want to hard code this. I don't want to hard code this. I don't want to hard code this. So that's why I'm not selecting anything. I will pass it dynamically. How to pass it dynamically? Let's say click OK. Okay, but what it is saying, it is throwing error. What is the reason is you have not selected any file or any container, any data. You are trying to get the data types of those data. There is no data. How I can able to infer the schema? How I can get the schema? Schema is nothing but what is the column? What is the data type of that particular column? All those things. Okay, you cannot import the schema. You need to select none in this case. Then click OK. Okay. Now we have, let's say, you just click on this. If this is the data set we have created, this is the data set we have created. Click on this data set. Can somebody guide me from the slides which we have seen how I can create the data set parameter? What I need to do? Somebody tell me. I just clicked on this. Next.
Click on parameters.
Okay.
New.
Okay. So we need to give the Here
Some
what
name.
I will do, source container
Container.
name. Yeah, that's all. Next.
Go to connection
Very
tab.
good. Very good. Click on this container.
Yeah.
Next.
Input.
Add dynamic content.
Dynamic content. Then if you come down, you will be able to see the
parameter.
open. Select this. Click select. See, that will come here. Meaning now if you pass input to this parameter, that input value will come here. That input value will come here. Even if you browse it and select, it will come. But instead of hard coding, I am passing it dynamic. I am passing it dynamically. Clear? Everybody is clear on this? Everybody
Yes, Malay,
should.
clear.
Okay. Now from this data set, some people are very inactive. Very clear. Varun, Vinay, Ramesh, Harish, Kalyan.
Yeah, yes, Malay. It's clear. It's clear.
Right.
Okay. So, okay. Now let's see. We need to, how we will pass the value to this parameter. Go to pipeline 1. See, as we have selected this particular data set, so this container it is showing here. In this container, here you need to pass the value. So you know the value that we have, container name we have is input. Okay, so this is the input. Understood? In this input container, I want to get some metadata. What is that? Some metadata. You need to tell what is that metadata. So if you come down, you will have a field list. Okay, this field list will talk about all those things. Okay, see here. Do you want child items? Child item means in that input container, whatever files we have, those file names you want, or you want to check this container, input container is existed or not, available or not. Item names. Okay, if you want to know, so this particular container name, anyhow it's a container name, you don't need to get it. What is the item type? Input is a folder. Input is basically a container. Container is nothing but what? Folder. So when you set item type, it will say input is a folder. Last modified, when you have created this particular input folder, that particular date will come. All this is the metadata you get. I want file names inside this particular container, child items. So with this activity, I want to debug. Let's debug. Let's debug. So we will be able to see, we are not writing anything. We are just getting the metadata. Let's see. This is the input, this is the output. Click on this output and see what it has given. cpjson2.json, cpjson3.json, cust1.csv, cust2.csv. This is what we are expecting. This is what we are expecting. Is it clear to all of you? First thing.
Yes,
See,
Malay, clear.
if you're not responding, our sessions will go for 2 hours because unless lab is finished, I will not close the call. Okay, so that is up to you. You need to respond. Okay, so these are the child items. Now you see, to get all these names, what you need to do? What you need to do is this get metadata activity output dot child items. When you say get metadata activity dot output dot child items, then you will get all these things. Then you will get all these things. You understood this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next thing I wanted to tell you. See, this is. Let me just copy this. So whoever is not able to understand today's session, you need to at least go through the recording. Okay, because today's session is important. So this is called a item 1. This is called a item 2. This is called a item 3. This is called item 4. Understood? Understood. When I say get metadata activity dot output dot child items, basically I will get all these. Basically, I will get all these things. Get metadata means it's not exact name. You will say activity of get metadata, something you will use here. That output dot child item means you will get all these things. Okay, so this is called, each item is called item. Each item is called item. Again, in this item, if I want to only file name, then you need to say @item dot. So this is the entire thing is called item. In this, I want to get only file name, then you need to say item dot name. I want only item dot name. Is this clear? Is this clear?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody is not
Can you
clear,
repeat
please say.
that? Yeah,
Yes,
can
somebody.
you repeat?
Wait. Subbu, clear?
I
Malay,
mean,
I'm not clear, Malay. Could you please explain?
See, did you remember how I got this?
Yes, actually, we have the input file. This type of file we have in input folder. So we got these things.
Okay, you understood these I got from the get metadata activity. When I say get metadata activity dot output dot child items, I will get all these things, because you see here get metadata output. See where I clicked. So this is a get metadata. I clicked on output. So output dot child item means I will get all these child items. This is all child items. These are the child items. Okay. When I say this, when I say okay, activity of something, you will have activity of get metadata. Basically, you will have something like this. Get metadata. Okay. Activity of get metadata output dot child items. Then you will get these items. In these items, this is the item 1, this is the item 2, this is the item 3, this is the item 4. In these items, you want to get only file name, then you need to say item dot name, then it will give, from this it will give this, from this it will give this, from this it will give this, from this it will give this particular, only this will give name. Understood? When you say item dot name, in this entire name you are requesting for this item dot name means you will get the file name. Okay.
@ is for link purpose you are using.
At the rate, that
At
is
the
the
rate
dynamic
link.
content syntax. That is the syntax. Okay, wait. You will come to know now. You see, I want to filter out some files. I want to filter out some files. You see, just bring the filter activity. Now you will come to know more clarity. You will get it now. Okay. This output, I want to pass it to filter activity. Go to settings. Say items. You need to pass all the items. How to pass it? Add dynamic content. Come down. See, this is the get metadata. Just select it. You will get activity of get metadata output dot, here you need to say child items. Okay, this child items means you will here only you can click. So child items means, see child items I told. So child items means you'll get all these things. In this one by one item, so this filter activity, what it will do, one by one item, it will pass it to the condition. In this condition, what is the condition? What condition it is going to check is, it is going to check something like this. You search for starts with. See, starts with, how starts with will work, just keep your cursor here. You see, starts with hello comma world. Hello, is this word is starting with hello, world is starting with hello or not? Yes. If it is starting with hello, then I need to say this will return true. You just select this. So here I need to say item dot name starting with CP, or item dot name is starting with cust. Okay. What it indicates, so in these all items I have a cust 1, cust 2. 1 second. Okay, clear friends? See, item dot cust, what it means, Item dot name, I'm saying item dot name, meaning in this, I'm going to say in this item, I'm going to say cpjson2.json. Okay, and you're going to say check cpjson.cpjson2.json. Sorry, cpjson2.json is starting with cust or not. Is it starting with cust or not? See, if you take this, I will give you some examples, you will come to know. First item dot name means, see, all these items you pass to the filter activity. Filter activity, what it will do? One by one item it will give. In this, first it will give this item. In this item, I'm taking item dot name, meaning first file name I'm taking cpjson2.json. This cpjson2.json is starting with cust or not? No. Meaning when it returned false, this particular item, this particular files will not be returned to output. Next item. In this, cpjson3.json is starting with cust or not? No. Then I will not return this particular cpjson3.json in my output. Next, cust1.csv. This cust1.csv starting with cust. Yes, then I will return this particular file. Cust2.csv. Yes, cust2.csv also starting with cust, so I will return this particular file as. Okay, clear? Let's click finish. Now click debug. Okay, just to click on filter activity output. You see what files you got in your output? What files you got in your output? Cust1.csv, cust2.csv
files.
Okay. Next, I'll say instead of this, I'll say this files ends with, have a function called ends with also. Ends with .json. .json. If I say ends with .json, click finish. Let's debug this. All 4 files I will give it to the filter activity. Filter activity is going to filter and it will give you only the required files. You see, you are getting only JSON files. How many of you understood this? These things?
Yeah, basically you are trying to filter out the files with extensions, either prefix
Yes,
or
not
suffix.
only extension or prefix or whatever. See, ultimately my goal is to understand how to use this filter activity, how to use this get metadata activity, all this. Okay, so we are going to use these things, but already you know what happens, what are the like prefix, what is prefix, what is the extension. So if you use wildcard, if you use the starting prefix, suffix, so how to get these files and how to filter these things and load it. Yesterday we have seen, day before yesterday I think, in copy activity I have shown you, use prefix as a cust, load only cust table, use wildcard to load all the files, all those things I have shown. Same requirement I am fulfilling with all this get metadata, filter activity, all these things. Okay, the advantage of doing this is here I'm going to do few things dynamic. So that's how I'm going to slowly introducing the new activities, new concepts, new parameters, all those things. Clear, Anna?
Yeah, is the filter case sensitive?
So not
You
case
have given
sensitive.
custom, right? Yeah.
Yes, more good question. Let me just check it. It should not be case sensitive. It's not a case sensitive. See .json I kept. Let's debug it. It is running. It ran. Check the output. So you got it.
Yeah, it's
It's
not
not a
case
case.
sensitive. Okay.
It's not a case sensitive. Next, any other questions, friends? Vikas clear, Arun clear, Suri clear, Ramesh,
Yes, Mal.
Yeah, Arun.
Naresh. Yes, Arun. Tell me.
Yeah, after creating debug, after clicking on debug, automatically where we navigate to, like after clicking on debug, how we open that output data. Yeah. Can you show me that once again? Yeah.
What? Just to click debug.
Okay. After clicking debug, automatically the output will come. Okay. Okay.
Who clear? Yes. Pawan, Ramesh. Shivaprasad clear.
Yes, sir.
Malaya, I have one question.
Tell me.
Suppose if I want to add one more condition, do I need to use another filter activity, or can I combine in the same condition?
No. See, you can use multiple things. I cannot explain all these things in one day. For these only, many people are confusing. Okay, that's why slowly I will introduce complex conditions, all those things. Okay, do not worry. So we can use some multiple. You can use the example. So all those things will come to know anyhow. Do not worry. And or you have multiple. So whenever you are using the multiple condition, you are going to use and or. So depends on how you want to. If both conditions true, then only I want to proceed. Then you have something called end. Okay, all those things you can use.
Yes.
We will discuss those things in the future session. Okay. So for now, let me just make it as simple as possible.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, Malaya, if we don't want to hard code, at that case only we were using the metadata activity, right?
Yes. See, metadata you can use in a different scenario. This is one of the scenario where I am using get metadata. Get metadata we are going to use in multiple examples. Okay. Not
One of
only
the
for metadata, not for outputting the value. We have a different scenarios where we will use get metadata.
Okay.
Fine. Now you have seen different types of files. We got it right. Now I want to pass this filter values to my for each activity. So let me go in a different way. So in general, we have a get metadata. Okay, just to bring it. Okay. Filter activity, all those things we'll have in a, or not in general, we will have all those things in iteration and conditions. We have for each and filter. Okay, let me just bring the for each activity. Just to pass the output of those two files into for each. How to pass it? Click on settings. Okay. How to pass those filter activity output? Just click on output. Filter activity dot output dot value. If you say value in this, we have these two items. You see, these are the items of the filter activity. Now the choice is yours. Now you need to tell me from these items. Okay, you guess it and tell me. I won't expect 100% correct answer, but you guess it and tell me if I want to get. So this is item 1. This is item 2. In this item 1, if I want to get the file name, what I need to do? Same thing, friends. I'm giving the clue as well. In this, if I want to get name of this particular file, what I need to do from this? Same item dot name. Okay, but how to pass all these things to the for each? How to pass all these things to the for each is filter activity dot output dot value. Okay, so that's what I will do. Just select for each. Okay, click on these items, click on this, click on filter activity, automatically output will come. Select filter activity, see filter activity dot output can, unless you need to say value. So value, it can be small or capital, it's basically case insensitive. Pass it. So those two files will go to the for each. Go inside for each. Inside for each, what I'm going to do? Inside for each, what I'm going to do? I'm going to use a
Copy activity.
Very good. I'm going to use a copy activity. Okay. So today we will see this. Okay, I have a copy activity. Let's click on source data set. Click new data set. What is this? This is basically a blob. From blob, I need to pick the files. And I need to load it. Okay. This is what DS. DS for Azure Blob Storage. This is basically source data. Select ls underscore abs. Select ls underscore abs. Now, what is the container? Where you want to load these files? All these are a JSON files. So I want to load it into JSON data. Select it. First row is at the, you know, right? JSON data. This is basically click OK. Okay. So, but I have not selected the file names, which files to pick. By default, it is going to pick everything. I need to tell what file it should pick. What file it should pick, I need to tell. Okay. So to tell that, you need to go to the source data set. Okay. Before that, go to pipeline 1. So inside a copy, I selected the data set. See, it is not showing any parameter. Now click on the source data set. Click on parameter. Click on new parameter. This is basically a source date source files. Okay, I just created a file parameter. Come to pipeline one. So parameter is waiting to receive the value. Okay. Now go back to the data set. This parameter I need to use. Where to use? Go to connections. So here file name means here I need to select. And dynamic content I need to select this source file. Click finish. This is a file name. I need to select because this time I need to pass file names dynamic. Click pipeline one. So here I need to pass which file to pick from this source data set. So I have a 2 JSON files. In this, first I need to pass this, then I need to pass this. Who is going to pass one by one? Foreach is going to pass, but you need to ask foreach. So from this I want only name. Item dot name you need to say. Okay. Item dot name you need to say. Now come to sync. Sync side, you have a JSON file. These JSON files, I want to load it as this. Okay, just click new. Blob storage, click continue. Yeah, I want to load as this. Select JSON. So this is blob storage. Let's say what I can do. Click link to service. Okay, so let's browse where I want to load these files. I want to load it into JSON data. So I made small wrong. Nobody noticed this. So this is my output. Okay. So in output, I need to specify the file names which I want to load. Click OK. See where you have the source files. You have source files in the input container, but I selected JSON data container. This is wrong. Browse it. Select input container. Understood? Because my source data should come from the input container. I need to my sync data set. You see, my sync data set is a reference to the JSON data, meaning my JSON data should be here. What are the file names? Okay, to create the file names, to pass those file names, go to source data set. Sorry, output data set. Create a pipeline. Output file. Come to connection. You just select add dynamic content. So use this output file here. Okay. Parameter I created, I'm using here. Go to pipeline one. So sync side it is waiting. So how you will get to know what is the file name? Same @item dot name. Okay, @item dot name. Okay. Now let's debug this. Before you debug, I also wanted to tell you, let me just use. So before it execute any next copy activity, I want to wait for some 60 seconds so that I can able to explain the things very clearly. Just to debug it. Okay, let's debug it. So I know it is confusing you, but you have more clarity now when I execute. See, get metadata, you know already what it will do.
Malay, under copy activity, in
Wait,
source
wait,
we have to
wait,
remove
wait,
the
wait,
file.
wait, wait. I will tell you all those things. See, get metadata, it will return all those files. You see, it is giving all the files. Okay. Filter, it is just filter the 2 JSON files. These 2 JSON files, so for each is trying to pass those 2 files at once. So for that, inside activities, it is started 2 wait activities, it is executing at once. So if we wait for 60 seconds, these 2 wait activities will finish and the 2 different copy activities are going to start. What these 2 copy activities are going to do, these 2 copy activities are going to copy one file into our target. Our target is what? JSON data set, that is a folder. Okay, let's go to blob storage, go to JSON data folder. Let's refresh. See, currently you don't have. Once this pipeline is succeeded, then you will see. See, almost it is now 49 seconds. See, wait activity is finished and 2 copy activities started. What each copy activity is doing? We have 2 files, that's why 2 copy activities started. But 1 copy activity is failed, 1 copy activity succeeded. Okay, how come one is failed? we need to look at that particular issue. Before that, come here, refresh this and see only cpjson2.json file came and cpjson3.json file is not there. Okay, so let's see. The reason may be cpjson3.json file is this data is little bit different. That's why it got failed. Okay, this data is different. So data is not in a proper format. I think the data has some issue. Okay, so I think I was exploring different scenarios. I have taken this data. Yeah. So let me just upload sales.json instead of cpjson3.json because this JSON format is different. Because of that, it got failed. Okay, I will show you the reason for failure. Click on this CP. See what it is saying, the error message. With row number 4, found more columns than expected column count 1. It found more columns than expected column count 1. Okay, there is some issue with the data. Okay, that's why it got failed. But now what I will do, go to storage account again. Let me just delete this particular file from my target file, that is JSON data folder. From JSON data folder, I just deleted that file. Go back, go inside this input folder. Let's delete this JSON3 only, right? JSON3. Let me upload the sales.json. Sales.json. Upload this. Okay. Now come to pipeline. Now see, I'm going to debug this time. See, previously, if you look at this in previous run, all this foreach is giving all these files at once. I don't want foreach to give all these files at once. I want to give foreach one by one file. So I need to select sequential. Sequential means first it will give file 1, next it will give file 2. Okay, select sequential, click debug. Okay, see now, get metadata returned all the 4 files. This time sales.json came. Okay, so for each will filter only JSON files. You see only JSON files. From those JSON files, for each we have, okay, it is picking 2 items. Okay, first, see, it is giving one by one. That's why only one wait activity is executed. First item it is giving wait activity will execute. Then once wait activity is finished, then what it will do? We will have a copy activity. Okay, after that the copy activity will execute. Let's see. Now you see your copy activity should start now. What is that? I think job is queued previously. Okay. So for wait activity is finished. Now you see copy data activity is running. What copy data activity will do? Copy data activity will copy the first file. Okay. See, it is copied first file, then again waiting. Let's go to the storage account and we'll see whether really it is copied our first file or not. Go to JSON data. See, one file is copied, one file is copied. Next, it is again waiting. See, again waiting stage. So once this wait activity is executed, next it will start the next copy activity. Next copy activity, what it is going to do? It is going to copy in our next file. We have 2 files, that's why copy activity is executing 2 times. Okay, for each is going to pass the files one by one. It can pass. For each can pass all the files at once. Previous run we have seen for each is passing all the files at once. Now for each is passing one by one. Okay. Now you see copy data activity is executing, so it is going to copy the new file. Okay, this is copied the new file as well. Just refresh this, you will get sales.json. Okay. See now with this example, okay, what you understood? With this example, what you understood?
The metadata should be same. Means the column.
We have not.
Actually, we are doing copy sequentially.
One by one file is copied.
If one is passed, then it will go for next.
So here basically multiple scenarios you can able to cover. Multiple scenarios you can able to cover. So now you understood this. I am copying the JSON files. It's the same files I will take, but everybody is clear on this particular flow, because if you're not clear on this flow, even if I explain multiple things, it is not clear to all of you. So that's why how many of you understood this? Because some Arun or somebody is asking some question when I debug in the pipeline. Because the debug pipeline will not stop you while the answering your question, it will start executing. I will not be able to explain. That's why I asked you to stop.
No,
But now you can ask
I
all
asked
your
you a
questions.
question. I asked you a question actually, Mala.
Yeah, tell me,
Whereas
Naresh.
under copy activity, we have the source, right? We are going to define the source. Under source, actually, you have that is, we have passed as a parameter that file name and all. Under
Correct.
copy activity.
Correct.
Why you require actually that? That's what.
Why I
No,
required?
under
Because
data set.
under data set.
Yeah. The data set.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what.
because for each is going to give me the files. Okay, for each is going to give me the file. That particular file I need to select from the input container. Inside input container, I have 4 files. If you are not
Yes.
specifying which file to pick from that out of those 4 files, it will get all the files. It will try to get all the files, but as you are not specifying any wildcard or anything, it will fail. That's why when you have it multiple files, if you want to pick single file, that particular which file to pick, you need to select. You have a group of let's say cricket team selection. What they will do, you have n number of people, you need to select the team. In the same way, you have n number of files, you need to select a particular file. That file, which file to select is how do you know? For each got the required files, which files to pass it. That for each is going to give you one by one file. That particular file you need to select one by one.
Okay. If I
Naresh,
keep it
clear?
as if I keep it as a blank and all,
It
okay,
will throw error.
it will throw
Okay,
error.
you want to
Okay.
see that? Let me show you. Let's not give this. Okay, I'm not giving anything.
What I'm
Now,
thinking is we are giving item dot name right here.
hmm,
Yeah.
hmm.
Okay.
Item dot
Instead of
name.
passing as a parameter, we can directly do that, right?
How do you do? See, first time you need to pass cpjson 2.json. Next, you need to pass cpjson 3.json. File names are going to keep changing internally when you are executing. What file you will give? How you will hard code? First time you will pass this. Next time you will pass this. So those things are going to happen internally. If you hard code cpjson 2.json, so always it will try to copy same file. What is the use of copying same file?
Okay.
Got clarity?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay.
Because Anand.
Malaya, just one request. While scrolling from one screen to another screen, can you just little bit go slower, little slower? Because we are
Sure,
not
sure.
able. I was not able to capture video things like the functions. All that.
Okay. So no, the only thing is this pipeline will finish executing. That's why I need to quickly move to these tabs to show you those things. That is the only reason. Okay, I will try my best to go slowly. Yeah. Any
Little
other
slowly.
questions? Sure.
Malaya, one more thing, like once we have created our own storage account and we have started practicing it, we'll get more clarity, no? Even in case after we have seen the slide and practicing it, we'll get more clarity, no? Because when it is like a session, we are getting it, but if you start practicing, it means we will get more clarity. And I just wanted to know that alone.
Yes. If you practice, you'll get more clarity and you'll get more confidence.
Because the instance you are telling you are getting it, but when the next scenario you are talking, we feel like as if we are forgetting that previous one. So that's what I want. But if we start practicing, means we will get everything into our head. That everything will get recorded. So only a mask.
Yeah. See, that is in your hand. Okay, that's fine. Now you see, by using this JSON, but by using this filter, what I'm doing, I'm just copying all the JSON files, isn't it? Okay. Now I want to use another filter activity to copy only CSV files. Okay. So you know other things. I'll just quickly finish this filter too. Just click on this, click on this. Get metadata output dot child items. Okay. In these items, so you need to check for what. This time I want to get only maybe, yeah, so starts with, we'll say, starts with item dot name. So in those file names, whether file names are starting with cust, if the file name is starting with cust, those files I want to move it. Okay, I want to move it into maybe some CSV folder. Okay, so use foreach. I will move it into the foreach. We discussed, right? Come here. So sequential, here also I want to go sequential, click add dynamic content. So what is the dynamic content? From filter to dot output dot value. Okay, this filter activity output you need to pass. Go inside this foreach, again use the copy data activity. Okay, this time the files that I'm getting is CSV files. Blob storage, CSV files, click continue. This I can say BS for Azure Blob storage, source CSV. Select this linker service, you know, first was header, browse it. So in input container, I have a multiple files. Out of those files, I need to select one by one file. Those file names, I will pass it dynamically. Click OK. In the same way, come to sync. Let's create a new data set, blob storage, click continue. This is I want to load it as a CSV itself. DS for Azure blob storage. DS for Azure blob storage. Sync output. CSV output. So use same linker service. First as header, browse it. I want to load it into this folder. So what file names you want to load, that file names I will pass it dynamically. Click OK. So now I need to create a source dataset parameter, sync dataset parameter. Now click on this, go to source CSV output. Okay, these are the two datasets. Here I will say source file. Create a source file. This source file I need.
Hello, Maya. I have one question in here. While selecting the parameter, may I know why you are giving a source container, source file? Instead of that, shall we give the file name directly?
Anything
Okay.
okay, just select source file. Okay, come to CSV output, come to parameters, you can say output file. You can give anything. It's our own file you want me to give, I will give our own file. Connection, come here, add dynamic content. Say our own file will come here. Select it. Okay. Now go to pipeline. In this copy activity, see our own file is waiting here. Here source file is waiting. So for each is giving these items. Okay. So this is item 1, this is item 2. In this, I need to pass this particular file name. So I will pass item.name. So in both the places, you need to say item.name. Item.name. Okay, come to sync. Here also you need to say same file I need to pass item.name. Okay, you can pass. Now come to pipeline. Let's see, before I debug, what I will do, I will go to storage account. I'll go to storage account. Even I will just delete this containers itself. You understood what I'm doing? Containers also will be created automatically if the containers are not available. I will show you that. Okay. Containers also will be created automatically if the containers are not available. I will show you that. Okay. Fine. Now come here. Let's click debug. Okay, before I debug, you see you don't have any containers or anything. Is it clear? Now I'm going to debug. Let's click debug. So see, copy data one, what we have done previously when I was explaining to him in this copy activity one, I removed that particular file name. That's why it is throwing error. Okay, go here. So go inside this data set. You need to select this dynamic source file. So when I was explaining to Naresh, I think I removed this file name, right? That's what it is throwing error. Into pipeline one, let's debug. See, get my data. These are parallel. So because this is separate. No, there is no like see. For each one is called copy data one. For each two called copy data two. Both are queued. Both are going to execute. Copy data one is finished. Copy data one. Copy data two. So 2 times copy data two is finished. Copy data one 2 times finished because we have two files. Come here. Sorry, come to storage. Click refresh here. We'll see CSV data. Go inside CSV data. Take cust1.csv, cust2.csv. Come back. Click on JSON data. See cpjson 2.json, sales.json. We have all the files. Okay, clear. Now I want to do multiple things. I want to convert these files. Everything you can able to do. Those things we will see in tomorrow session. Okay. So this is the basic. Okay, get metadata, filter, for each. So I don't want you to understand what I have done, but you try to understand high level how I am using these activities. Try to understand for now. But I will show you more scenarios. Just for now, you need to understand how I am using all these activities. Okay, so tomorrow everybody keep your credit card and the new email ID ready to create a portal. So once you create Azure account, then you can able to practice. Okay.
Malaya?
Tell me.
Yeah, credit card will it be charged? Will it be charged for creating a